Hey y'all, if you're new here, I'm Jessie, and if you are returning, thank you. What's up? Good to see you again. Today we are going to wrap up the month of May, talk about all the books that I read, and y'all, May was a good month. Like, I read 7 books, and literally every single one of them was either a 4 or 5-star book. That has never happened. Normally I have like 1 or 2 that I'm like meh about, but no. This month I had so many books that I just loved. And I'm hoping that this is like a pattern that translates into June. But to start off with, I'm going to tell you about the one that I started and did not finish yet, and that is Sword of Kaigen. I am reading it on Kindle Unlimited, and I'm about 300 pages in. It is so good. I am loving it. I am probably going to buy an actual physical edition of it at some point once I finish, but it is so good. I just wanted to mention it because it is a self-published author, and this book is like making its way around. Like, people are talking about it, like really big booktubers have been talking about it, and like I love that for this like self-published author, because that is amazing. Because I feel like self-pub authors like don't get the love that they deserve just because they don't have that financial backing behind them of a traditionally published author. So if you have Kindle Unlimited, or if you want to pick up a copy, I highly recommend Sword of Kaigen, and I will be finishing it very soon. Alright, as far as my books I did finish in the month of May, like I said, there were 7 books. 1 was an ebook, and the rest of them were physical books that I had on my shelves. So let's discuss. Normally, I do my wrap-ups lowest to highest, but since they're all 4 or 5 stars, like I'm just not doing that this time. I'm gonna start with the 3 books that I ended up finishing for the Asian Readathon. And the first book that I read for the Asian Readathon was Girls of Paper and Fire. This book was a 4-star read. I really enjoyed it. It was so good. The world was just super interesting. It was like nothing I've read in YA before. It's definitely on the older side of YA. So keep that in mind. It is like more new adult than young adult, I think. But it is so good. It is about this girl named Lei, and she is of the paper caste, which means she is not demon or half demon. So they are the lowest caste in this world, and the Demon King picks girls every year to be his paper girls, which are basically his concubines, and she ends up being one of them, and she's just not having it. So her and this other girl form this beautiful relationship, and the whole story is basically like these girls trying to fight back and overcome and retake their power, which you know I love. This was definitely a good book. I've seen so many mixed reviews, and I think a lot of the mixed reviews come from the second book, which I have not picked up yet, but I do plan to do in the near future. The next book that I picked up and finished for Asian Readathon is Wicked Fox Picacho. This is another YA fantasy. It is set in South Korea, and it is very inspired by and reminiscent of K-dramas. Our main protagonist is a girl who is a gumiho. She is half fox demon, half human, and her mom is full fox demon, and the whole premise is she consumes the souls of men in order to survive, but she doesn't like that. Like, it's not, doesn't like make her happy. She doesn't do it because she's evil. She does it because she has to live, so she does like the bare minimum and tries to seek out bad people, criminals who have gone unprosecuted, things like that. And then one night she runs across this boy in the woods and saves his life from another mythical creature. And she's just like, you know, forget about it. Don't think about me. Don't remember me. And then she shows up at her new high school the next day to find that he is her classmate. And it is an adorable, pretty romance heavy young adult fantasy, and I loved it. Again, this had mixed reviews, but I think if you go into it knowing what it is, then you'll really enjoy it. Like, it was fun. It was a fun, easy to read, romance heavy fantasy story, and I'm super excited to read the second book when it comes out. I don't believe it is out yet, but I saw it on Goodreads, so I believe it's coming out soon. But yeah, this is one that I would recommend. Again, it was so, so good. 4 stars. My first 5-star book of the month was also one that I read for Asian Readathon, and that is The Dragon Republic. Y'all know I absolutely love the Poppy War, and this sequel may be better than the first book. Like, it was just so good. It takes place like immediately after the events at the end of the Poppy War, and we get to see where everybody is at, what happened with the Psyche, where Kate is, what's happening with Ren, what's happening in the world at large. So it is so good. We're dealing with the fallout of the end of the first book. I'm trying not to give any spoilers because I really want you to read the first book if you haven't. So we're dealing with the fallout of that, the ramifications of war, the cost of war. We are dealing with some pretty heavy topics, so just like in the first book, with drug abuse and violence and war and sexual assault and torture and PTSD and how that affects everything. So this is just, it's such a good book, and I can't wait for the third one to come out, because this book had me feeling everything. It had me happy, it had me sad, it had me mad, it had me crying, it had me laughing. It just was so good, and such a dark story, but there are moments in it of light and happiness that you can kind of see that are really fledgling, and it's just so good. R.F. Wong does not hold any punches. She does not hold your hand. She does not babysit you. She throws you right into the shit of it, and she lets you know that war is not pretty. War has costs and ramifications, and all of our actions have ramifications, whether they be good or bad. No matter what our intentions were, our actions are what matter, and that is what I love about this story. The next book that I picked up was another ebook, and it was Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. I don't have to say much about this because y'all know I'm a Sanderson girl, and this was a 5-star read for me. It was so good. I really enjoyed it. I wanted to finish it before I started reading Words of Radiance, because there are some small tie-ins and crossovers and Easter eggs, and from what I've heard, it's actually more prevalent in Oathbringer. So I'm excited that I got Warbreaker done, because now I can like see those Easter eggs for myself whenever I get to those books. It's just, it was so good. It's a standalone, which is not your typical Sanderson, but it is written in a way that just makes this world feel so big and so vast, and it is part of his Cosmere. And it's the story of these 2 royal sisters. One was raised from birth knowing that she was going to go marry this god king in another country, and one was just kind of like left to her own devices because she's like the spare. And come down to it, the dad, the king, was like, hey, I'm not sending my oldest daughter who I love too much, I'm sending my spare, go marry this king, and like throws the whole world into chaos because, you know, she wasn't prepared for it. She didn't have the political knowledge, and so she gets to this other place where she is to basically be their queen and marry their god king, and she just doesn't know what is going on. And it is such a good story. It has some really good twists, an amazing magic system. If you like fantasy, if you like Sanderson, this is a great standalone story. Another 5-star read that I got to in the month of May is The Great Hunt. Yes, I finally finished it. I know it took me like 3 months to finish it, but I finished it and I loved it. I think it was better than the first book, and it ends super well. It read a lot faster because there was less setup than in the first book. And I mean, Jordan is just super descriptive, so that's why it takes so long to read, but whatever. I just know that's his style, and I really loved it. I enjoyed being back in the world with Matt and Perrin and Rand and Egwene, and there was just so much about this story that I just ate up, and I loved it. It did take me forever to finish it, but it was so good, and I will definitely be moving on to The Dragon Reborn very soon, because I want to read as many of the Wheel of Time books as I can this year before the show comes out next year. The next 2 books that I finished are both second books, and they are both 4-star reads, which made me super happy, because normally like second books tend to like lack something. They tend to like suffer from middle book syndrome, but these 2 were super good, and I was thrilled with how they progressed the story instead of just being that second book that's like in the middle. Like, they got some real good plotting and character development. And the first one that I read was Archenemies by Marissa Meyer. This is the sequel to Renegades, and it was so good. I loved seeing how Nova and Adrian kind of grew up some after the events of Renegades. If you don't know, Renegades is a series that is superhero based. Nova is a villain and Adrian is a superhero, but they both have powers. And she is basically infiltrating the Renegades, which is kind of like their world's Avengers. And come to find out, the Renegades are not as good as everyone thinks they are, and the Anarchists, the bad guys, are not as bad as everyone thinks they are. And like, Nova's kind of thrown into this world where she's having to choose between her villainous side and this new group of friends that she is making while pretending to be a renegade. And this book is the continuation of that, and we get to see much more character and relationship development between Nova and Adrian, specifically one of the renegades, as well as some of the other members of her team. And it's just everything I wanted. This book is what I'm talking about when I want enemies to lovers. It just is. It's so good. It's cute. It's easy to read. I read it in 2 days. It's like 500 pages, but Marissa Meyer's writing is just so easily digestible that I just enjoy my whole time but fly through it. So this was definitely a 4-star read. It was so much fun, and I can't wait to read the next one. And the final book of the month that I got to was Thunderhead. I actually finished this last night, like last day of the month. I stayed up till like 1 a.m. reading it because I just couldn't put it down. And yes, it's my copy with the cut thing, but whatever, I'm still gonna hold it. I just couldn't put it down, y'all. It was so good. I really loved Scythe, and I was like curious to see what they were gonna do in this one, and I think they did really good for a second book. I really loved the introduction of Grayson Tolliver and his storyline. I loved how Rowan has grown and changed. I adored how Citra has like come into her own and has really embraced being Scythe Anastasia. And it's just there were some moments though that had me like kind of shocked. I was like, oh. So again, I would say this definitely is a little gory for a younger YA audience. So I would definitely say that this is more an older YA audience, because there is obviously like murder, bleeding, and there's some torture, and it gets a little graphic in some places, but it is so good. The only thing that I wish I would have seen more of Rowan and Citra like together. Like there was something I wanted more of, and that was pretty much it. I wanted to see more of like their story together. I wanted to see more of Faraday and what he's doing, and it was good though, y'all. The ending of this has me wanting to go on Amazon and buy the toll right now just to see what happens, because like it was kind of a cliffhanger ending, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, this kept me up till 1 o'clock in the morning just turning pages. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed hearing about all the books that I read in the month of May. Let me know your thoughts on any of these if you have them. And as always, my name is Jessie. I make videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I would love to have you hang around with me, and like and subscribe and comment, and I will see you next time. Bye.